Yeah, you know what time it is, man. It's Flight School TV. I'm here with Danielle, half of Indigenouz royalty. Your husband unfortunately couldn't be here. Edward, shout out to you, man. I definitely wanted to acknowledge his presence too, because I understand he a pivotal role in the company.
Appreciate
so I want to start off the interview with just getting your background story, like where you from, how did you grow up, and things like that.
Well, I was born and raised on the west side of Chicago. I went to Providence A. Male High School.
Oh, so you from out west then?
Yes,
okay,
I'm a West Sider.
I'm glad to have you out.
Shout out to West Siders.
Yeah, because I've been consciously like, man, I do a lot of content in Chicago, but it's dominantly on the south side.
Yeah.
And it's not by choice. It's just how things just seem to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But out west, y'all got a lot of things going on, and especially from like, if you black in Chicago, I feel like the west side really embody that, like, for real.
I like that.
Like, for real. Like, it's almost like, because I was just out there for a turkey drive with Fort Manor recently, man. Shout out to Slick. And they was giving away turkeys. They had a buffet style, feeding the community. And everybody's so animated, you know what I'm saying? And it's really like,
that special energy from out
it really is. It's a different energy, you know, and it was an embracing energy, I would say, from compared to like being in certain areas out south, where most people like, who is you? Get the camera off me. Out west, they like, hey, put me on camera. Like, I want to show you, like, you know what I'm saying? It's real soulful, I would say. You know what I'm saying? I really like that vibe. I want to do more content out there, you know what I'm saying? And people don't understand, like, for my viewers that's not from Chicago, I'll try to explain this to you in the best way possible. If you from the south side, we say out south. If you from the west side, we say out west. And if you on either part of, like, south and east, kind of like very similar. The south and east side of Chicago is very similar. Like, our terminology, the slang we use, all that stuff is real similar. Out west is almost like you in another state.
People like it's a whole nother world.
It's a whole nother world. Like, the way y'all dress, the slang that y'all use, even from like the music standpoint, like the rappers that's from out west, like in most situations they rap a lot faster. You know, that's what you'll see a guy like Twister.
Yes,
you know
that's
what I'm saying?
I was thinking about.
Do or Die. You know, all those, a lot of those guys. You know, and it's just, people that's not from Chicago might not understand. It's like,
that's true.
Bro, it's all Chicago, but it's really not.
Different.
It's different. Yeah. So I ain't mean to interrupt you. I just had to touch on that point, because I'm thinking like, oh, you from out west? That's good.
Most people don't show us west side is a lot of love. So
yeah, but
cool.
y'all really made significant contributions in almost every aspect of the city. Whether, it doesn't matter what you're talking about, gangs, you talking about music, you talking about fashion, a lot of different things came from out west that impact the world. So so you said you grew up out west, you went to Providence
A. Mill.
Okay. I mean, I wanted you to finish.
Yeah, so I grew up out on the west side of Chicago, went to Providence A. Mill. I went to U of I in Champaign. My profession by day is nursing. I've been a nurse for 11 years. I have two sons, Edward and Daniel, so the names kind of match up. You see what we did there. Yeah. I'm into fitness. I got into fashion because my husband had an idea of, starting a clothing brand, and he was kind of trying to flesh it out a little bit. And once he really talked to me more about it and explained his vision, I'm like, okay, this is something we could really do, so let's do it. So
yeah, because I met you at Chicago Brands Only.
Yeah, at the Promontory.
Yeah, at the Promontory. Shout out to the Promontory. Love you guys. They had an event for it was like a pop-up event where they had all these different vendors. And when I walked past your table, it specifically stood out to me, because I'm like, the first thing, I'm like, certain images that you was using, I'm like, man, these from iconic movies and stuff like that. I love that. But then even outside of those shirts that I saw, I also saw other shirts with messages on them.
Right.
And I'm like, man, this is real powerful, because that's an aspect that I think in our community we gotta embrace more and understand more. Imagery, like what you see on TV, what you hear in music, what you experience when you step outside, and what you see often directly impacts the way we think, the way we live, the things we eat. You know, because if we got a million McDonald's commercials popping up in our face, like, eat here,
you going to McDonald's when
you're going to eventually, like, and it's subconscious. It's
Yeah.
not like somebody just thinking, like, you know what, I love McDonald's, their food is just delicious. It's more so like, you know, it's convenient, it's right here.
It's kind of like that subliminal programming.
Yeah, you know, and we deal with that a lot in our communities, and I feel like the only way to combat that is doing what I'm doing with Flight School TV, talking and speaking to people like yourself, and eventually your husband when we do part 2 to this, you know, just putting out, and what you're doing with your clothing line, putting out these images, these messages, and you know, if people start seeing us, if we start seeing ourselves as kings and queens, we'll start living like kings and queens instead of living like savages and however else they want to describe us. You know, but I noticed that your brand is centered around like black love and knowledge of self. So before the clothing line, when did you start having those moments where you started thinking in that way? Especially, you know, growing up in Chicago where we got a lot of negative influences, and I attribute a lot of the violence that we see to our community not loving themselves. So if you can't learn to love yourself, then of course you're not going to have love for your neighbor. So at what point in time in your life specifically did you start embracing who you are and understanding who you are?
Well, I've always had an interest in our history and who we are as a people, but like me and my husband, we have conversations all the time in terms of, you know, like you said, just really bombarding ourselves with more positive imagery and positive messages of what we really represent, like, you know, who we are, where we come from, you know, the power that we possess, the level of influence that we have. Like, it didn't just come out of nowhere. Like, we've been doing this for decades, centuries, however you want to describe it. So just having that thought process, that mindset, that belief that, you know, we come from royalty, we are royalty, you know, we set the tone, we set the standard, we influence culture on so many different levels. Like, if you think, act, and move in that way, you know, you're just putting out that positive energy, and when you influence people more and more and more, you know, that impact just starts to spread. So that's really like the core of what.
So was it like always involved in your life from like your parents and them teaching you certain things, or did you like go through high school and it was like, you know what, this not right? Like, you know, sometimes we have certain moments that really change our outlook on things. You know, did you ever have a specific moment, or was it just always part of your upbringing to think like this?
Well, I would say I've had a pretty solid traditional upbringing per se, 2-parent household. Parents were married, you know, worked good jobs, you know, went to a good school and college, and, you know, the whole go to school, go to college, get a good job mentality, you know, that was instilled in me. But I always had a good level of confidence within myself in terms of, you know, just being a smart kid, you know, not being into trouble and things like that, and just wanting to, you know, grow up to be somebody, you know, like any other kid. But experiences as an adult and just really observing how moving within a traditional realm, sometimes it doesn't fit you, and, you know, you start to read and research and just come across things that really provoke your thought in a way like, okay, you know, it doesn't necessarily negatively question what you felt like you was brought up on or the information you was taught and things like that. But our culture has so many things that aren't brought to light in a positive way. And I wouldn't say it's necessarily hidden, but I would say it's more so not the most popular viewpoints or things like that. A lot of the cool stuff is kind of always, you know, lingering between the negative or the controversial type stuff. But for us, like with me and my husband, as we started to kind of read and research more, just come across things that, you know, weren't always highlighted in our history. Like, you know, when you think Black History Month, you think Martin Luther King and, you know, maybe Malcolm X and Rosa Parks and, you know, like your typical figures. But, you know, when you start to really dig into our history and, you know, you come across some of the speeches like that Malcolm X did and the ISIS papers and, you know, about Ma'at and Kemet and just like really deeply rooted history of our people and where we come from. Like, man, we used to do some dope stuff.
Yeah,
so we got to bring that back on another level.
And I did a segment last year when I was around Black History Month, and I was like, You know, it was I would interview everybody, no matter from all nationalities. I was just like celebrating Black History Month. But one thing that I specifically told everybody before I asked them who you think deserves to be celebrated for Black History, and I put together little short clips, you know, just in celebration. But I told them, like, I don't want to hear Malcolm X. I don't want to hear Martin Luther King. I don't want to hear Rosa Parks. I don't want to hear Harriet Tubman. Mm-hmm. Not to downplay their significance,
right? But
just to offer a different perspective from what we are normally fed. Mm-hmm. Because it's, I mean, like if like the shit, like something that kids probably relate to, like the guy that created the Super Soakers,
right?
You know, like this dude created the Super Soaker that you see in Toys R Us, where Toys R Us closed, but like you see in Walmart, Target, mm-hmm. You know, during summertime, we always grew up with the Super Soakers out there playing with each other, spraying each other with the water.
Right.
We never, I never knew until he filed a lawsuit because he was trying to, they owed him money because companies was taking his. They didn't
want to pay him out because they were trying to replicate his original patent. So.
Exactly, and until that happened, I didn't even know a Black man created that.
It's a lot of stuff that we've created and we've founded, we've started, we've influenced that it's just not talked about at all.
Yeah, and you know, it's kind of weird to me that we only talk about like 5 people.
Right.
Like it's
like we got a 5 and that's it. Like,
yeah, and even in like history classes in school, that's even worse. They start us off with slavery.
Like that's where it started.
Okay, we was born into slavery and that's just it.
Right.
Not knowing we got a heritage that goes far beyond that. Like, like some people would say, we're the first people on Earth. So, you know, that can be debated about whoever got time to do that. Right. But, you know, that's like certain things like that is like you said, it's not hidden. But at the same time, I can apply it to something that I'm experiencing right now. So I'm learning as I go with Flight School TV. And I'm learning different tricks and different stuff. So I'm always constantly on the search to find out different techniques. But see, the thing is, and it's the key part, if you don't know certain words to search, even though the information is available if you type in that word,
it's not gonna come up.
But if you don't know the word to search, you won't find what you're looking for.
Yeah.
And I feel like that can easily be applied to what we're speaking about now. But where if you don't know where to start looking,
right,
even though the information is there, you won't find it because you don't know where to start looking.
Yeah.
So that's a problem that we experiencing in a lot of different aspects. And another reason why I'm happy that you're here and I'm taking time out to talk about your brand, because a lot of this conversation need to be had.
Yeah.
And so what made you create a clothing brand? You and your husband?
Well, he said that it was an idea he had been contemplating for like some years, like even through college, but he kind of just sat on it, and, you know, as he thought about it more and more and more, he was like, you know what, I'm just going to do it. And, you know, he just kept coming across people that were either starting businesses or talking about it kind of subliminally. So it's like, okay, that's my message to really, you know, just put out there and get started. So he had the idea of the logo in terms of adding the I in front of the I of Ra, so that, you know, made it really unique. And that's how Indigenous royalty.
How did y'all come up with that image in itself? Because it seemed like my understanding of like Black history is on one level. I'm not saying like I'm the smartest guy. I would never claim to be. I like a little bit understand, but it's a ton of stuff I don't. But y'all, when I've been following your page for a while now. It's like some of the stuff y'all post, I'll be like, oh, that's deep.
Yeah.
Like y'all really like go further
than
putting
them layers back. Yeah, like all that superficial Black history stuff is cool, but man, it's some stuff when you start to really read into it and you dig behind the scenes and you just go back to like when we were kings and queens, and, you know, we were sitting on the throne, you know, giving orders and running stuff. So it was like, man, just we have to bring that whole mentality back on like a whole nother level and just really come together collectively and have a much more elevated mindset, so we can offset all the negative stuff that we see so much. So yeah.
how did y'all come about using that what's it called, the Eye of Ra?
The Eye of Ra is representative of protection. So in
That's
terms of indigenous, that's original people. So we are the original people, and royalty, it speaks for itself. We come from royalty, kings and queens, the mindset and things like that. So just really kind of meshing that all together. But I like the fact that he actually wanted to put the I in front of it to really connect the two and make the logo really unique. So he had kind of like freehand sketched it actually. And this girl that we had met, she actually had it, tightened up and had the lines and everything cleaned up, and that's how we made the logo.
Yeah, that's tight. That's tight. How do we spread more awareness about our real history? Like we was just talking about, like we talk about certain figures all the time, but like how do we get to the point or create a comfortable space and have conversations where we can actually get more in depth with our real history, and not just feed kids like regurgitated images over and over again?
I think it comes from a space of first wanting to know that there's more to know, because it's the traditional history that we've been given and exposed to over and over and over and over again. It's just so profound. People always feel challenged per se when you present something that goes against the grain, something that's outside the box, something that doesn't look or sound clean cut. Like, okay, did we really experience that, or were we really about that life back in our history and things like that. So just it takes a sense of openness to be open to learning something new, and it may go against something that you steadfast on in terms of your beliefs, but
especially
just being
when it
open
comes to stuff
it.
like religion.
Oh man, that's a whole nother story. But
especially when it comes to
that's a big one.
Don't play with people
really,
religion.
Really big one. That's a big one. But even in that aspect, just really a lot of the stuff that we've kind of come across and read upon and researched, like when you start to really piece it together, at least for me, it started to make a lot more sense in terms of what we're seeing now, what we're experiencing, how a lot of the current modern day history has come about. Like it's hard, at least for me, to deny all of the greatness that existed prior to our existence and being on this earth. But like I said, that openness, having an open mind and really wanting to know more, to really understand, like, okay, we came from this, so this is influencing how we got to this point now. So open dialogue, just really wanting that knowledge, having a hunger and a thirst for fresh knowledge is always allowing you to grow your viewpoint.
Is it a way to make like learning cool?
Yeah, that's hard.
I feel like that's like probably like the biggest challenge is like, how do you make, because we still experiencing Black history right now. Like I tell people all the time, a lot of
it is just kind of
like
recycling.
Kanye is a lot of his stuff be like way left. It's just like, where are you going with this?
Right.
Like who you got in your ear telling you this stuff? Man. But outside of like the politics and all the ignorant statements that we might hear, I wouldn't even say ignorant, misguided statements that we hear. What he's doing as a Black man is Black history.
Yeah.
Like the way his level of influence, what he's doing in fashion has never been done. Even going back to his collaboration with Louis Vuitton, like originally, like just groundbreaking things, but in a different lane, in a fashion and realm. But that's still history. Dapper Dan is Black history.
Yeah.
We got George Daniels, Black History. That's Chicago.
Man, classic.
Yeah, we got Black history being made as we experience it now.
Yeah, every day.
But how do we create that curiosity that would make people want to look back to understand who they are, where they from? Right.
Well, indigenous royalty creates moments of like nostalgia, in a sense of when you see a picture that we may put on a shirt, it's kind of like a think piece, a conversation starter. Because like I've come across a lot of younger adults or early teenagers per se. They may not know anything about Love Jones or even Juice or Higher Learning, like some of our more popular shirts and things like that. They never seen the movies. They never heard of them. So those are like key conversation starters in terms of like kind of really reviving them knowing about some of the key things in, you know, our culture. Because like, man, when it comes to music, movies, art, sports, like you name it, like we set the tone.
Our influences.
It's crazy. Our influence, like the shirt say, we are the culture. Like it's just, it comes from so many angles, and I think we lose sight of that. Like we hold the key, we hold the power, like our buying power, our level of influence. Like if we use that stuff in a positive way, like the possibilities are endless.
Yeah, because I've been saying it for a while. We determine what's cool, and a lot of times we sell our cool for a low price, and we undervalue ourselves. It's just like, why work for somebody when you are the driving force behind a company? Why work for a company and you the driving force behind a company? You should own the company.
Yeah,
and
ownership, that's key.
Yeah, and I think that we don't preach that enough, and I don't think we take time to acknowledge it. You know, I think that's the main thing. Like we don't acknowledge what's happening while it's happening, instead of like waiting for somebody else to validate us or give us that. I don't think that's ever gonna come, but I think we can, in like in the moments, start recognizing what's going on. Who really has the power here? Is it this big fashion manufacturing company? You know, do they really hold the power, or are they feeding off our energy and riding our wave? And I've been saying that for a while. I think a lot of these companies ride our wave. Stuff that get created in our neighborhoods. I'm not sure who it is. Some talent scout or some type of, you know, these companies.
Right, they come in and sneak like,
and be like,
this what they doing.
That's what
this
they
is
doing
what's
over there.
Let's take that.
Yeah, and kind of just wash our
whitewash it.
Yeah. Wash us away and act like they created it. But the color scheme's been coming out of our communities, you know, especially in the 90s when the colors was vibrant.
Yes,
you know
the more the better.
Yeah, like cross colors, you know what I'm saying? Walker wear, like cool, even Coogee, you know what I'm saying? But like all these companies was using these bright, vibrant colors. Then you start seeing it apply over into Polo. You started seeing it in Tommy Hilfiger. You know, then they started doing it, but
trying to keep up.
Yeah, but no matter what period of time you go back to, we always determine what was cool. And they just try to follow. And a lot of times they be in a position financially or just structurally to make it happen on a bigger scale than we can at the moment, so they get credit for it. And I don't think people realize that what's going on. But you know, if you know, you know. I guess like Pusha T say.
That's big from a business standpoint, because we have to learn how to get off the consumer side and get to the producer side, the innovator, the owner, you know, and take that influence and, you know, actually use it from a financial standpoint in terms of like, okay, this is what we're influencing, this is what we're putting out, and, you know, we're putting it out there and we're also capitalizing off it.
Understanding your worth. Understanding your worth. I did a good interview recently. It's not out yet, but it probably will be by the time this come out. With this guy named Drew Greer, and he was I don't want to get his titles wrong, but he was the VP at Nike.
Oh, nice.
Brand marketing and director at Ralph Lauren.
Okay.
He held a very high status at Under Armour and the sneaker company Super. That's like a skateboard shoe.
Right.
He worked at all these companies, and now what he's doing currently is he's on his campaign for diversity, inclusion, and empowerment inside those companies, because he sat at the highest level of these companies and saw that in these rooms he was the only black person.
Yes, it'd be like the higher you go up, the less and less and less of us you see.
Yeah, but the funny thing is that all the athletes that drive these brands are black.
Look like us.
Michael Jordan, black. Kobe Bryant, black. LeBron James, black. Like keep going down the line. The most successful, largest athletes that they market are people that look like us.
Yeah, they'll use you as the face, but they don't want you sitting at the table making the decisions.
Exactly. So Drew Greer is a person that can offer insight from on the inside. And now he's coming back and trying to spread that knowledge. Say, hey, look, we need to get in these rooms to make these decisions.
That's right.
And I seen a picture with I'm not sure which company it was. It was some company, Nike, Adidas, something like that, where they took a picture of their staff, like their team, like they had a successful launch, and it was like all white people.
Oh my God.
I think it was Adidas, and it was all white people, like the high ranking members that, and it was just like, wow, like you think of what Adidas is right now, like was people really talking about Adidas like that before Run DMC said hold up your Adidas at their concert? Or would the kids really care about Adidas if Kanye wasn't behind Adidas with the Yeezy?
For Yeezys, they would not be relevant
right, you see what I'm saying? And not to even just speak about the past, we can talk about right now what Zoe and Fashion Geek is doing with Puma.
Killing it.
They got kids in Chicago. Like, Puma never been a Chicago shoe.
Never.
We always wore Air Force Ones. We wore Timberlands.
Never was a Chicago shoe.
Yeah, but
I'm
now
seeing it more and more and more.
Yeah, you see kids running around with Puma, and that's why I say we should take time to learn our history, but we should also acknowledge history being made. And you know, that's why I always salute Zoe, I always salute Al, Dave, Jeff, you know, Emery, shout out to Emery, the whole Rock Nation staff, I love y'all. You know what I'm saying? Because they behind the culture, and they is actually positioning themselves to be, you know, the shot callers instead of just the talent.
That's key, positioning. Like, we have to strive to put ourselves in the right places and be in the mix in making those decisions, so you know other people can't speak for us.
Right, because if we allow people to keep telling our story, along the lines, there's gonna be a lot of facts missing.
It's gonna be watered down. It's not gonna really be true and authentic to who we are.
Yeah, for sure. But I touched on this earlier, and I want to bring it back up. And like we was talking about, you can't love your neighbor if you don't learn to love yourself. And it sounds like a little gimmicky saying or something like that, but it's very true. And I'm not saying like you don't love yourself. Like, everybody got some level of love for themselves, but like truly loving yourself, like not being ashamed of it. You know what I'm saying? That's what I mean by that. I'm not saying like you just thinking you having suicidal thoughts or something, like you don't. I'm not saying like that far drastic, but I'm just saying like when you step outside, you proud to be who you are in any environment.
Yeah.
Don't matter if you're in a room full of all white people, all Hispanics, Indian, whatever, you know, whatever you are, you should be comfortable in who you are and be proud of it. And whoever don't like it, fuck them.
Yeah.
You know, excuse my language, you know what I'm saying, but just being real. How do we get to the point where we push that agenda more so than the agenda that we currently see, like with all the, you know, with the hate that we see a lot of hate, and especially growing up in Chicago, you know, we got a lot of violence. We working towards getting better, and I've seen a lot of things get better, but we is in a city that's full of like that tension.
Yeah.
So how do we like try to change that?
I think it's comes from a few different aspects. It definitely starts in the home in terms of upbringing with your kids and just really pouring that belief into them of, you know, value themselves at the highest level. You know, always thinking highly of themselves, being confident in their knowledge, their intellect, their abilities across the board, and you know, keeping that always instilled in them. Especially our black boys. I have two sons. I have a 7-year-old and a 10-year-old. So you know, they're at that age where you really have to pour that mentality into them, because you know their friends and that level of influence starts to you know, come sooner than later.
Yeah, because the influence starts at that age, start coming
it's
outside
coming
the house.
earlier, yes.
Yeah, outside the house more so than inside the house. So you kind of do got to get on them early, for sure.
It definitely starts with that. But then from an adult standpoint, you know, we have to really lead by example. Like, if our kids and our community leaders and, you know, the kids and stuff in the community see us carrying ourselves a certain way and, you know, going about doing things a certain type of way, they'll start to really understand, you know, what true morals are, values and principles. Like, those are like cliche words per se, but like they're so ideal. Like, if you don't have the right type of morals, the values, the principles, like you don't really know who you are, represent. You know, you don't know where you're going, and you don't really know what you stand for. So a lot of the youth don't really have that solid foundation of building something upon which they stand upon, and they cherish it 100%, and nothing can make them waver from it. So we have to really build a strong influence from a positive standpoint. So like even with the slogans on the shirts and the different pictures and things like that, that's just a way to outwardly express how you would feel about yourself inwardly. So just really value yourself and where you come from and where you're trying to go. It's a way to represent it, like, hey, this is what I stand for, this is what I'm proud of, this is what I like to represent, and hey, you see it, if you like it, you like it, you don't, you don't.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree. And a common theme that I noticed with the clothes that y'all make is like y'all use these iconic moments.
Yeah.
And it like that's what caught me. I stood at your table for a minute, just not even just trying to pick a particular shirt, but just looking at and reminiscing. Mm-hmm. Like, damn, I remember that movie. Sometimes like Love Jones, for example, like Love and Basketball. These is movies that's came out a while ago, so sometimes if you haven't seen it in a while, you kind of forget.
Yeah.
But know what I'm saying, like seeing those shirts like walk you right back down memory lane.
Yeah.
Was that like part of your y'all strategy going into it? Like, let's use iconic moments from black films and incorporate it into to kind of make it more digestible. You know what I'm saying? Was that like the formula?
It was part of it, most definitely. Like I said earlier, the moments of nostalgia, like even bringing back some of the classic TV shows like Family Matters and the Bernie Mac show, and even in the good days of the Cosbys, and stuff like that. When you think about those moments in those shows and movies and stuff, like those movies and shows had a lot of messages that we caught on and we lived through in our childhood. So when you think back to those things, you'd be like, man, they were actually out trying to teach us about who we are and what our culture represents, or typical family issues and how to hash them out, and just how to live our lifestyle in a positive way though. Right. So then when you think back, like, man, the stuff we dealing with now, they talked about it on this TV show, or right. Even around Father's Day, like I did a few different types of shirts for Father's Day. So like He Got Game, Will Smith on Fresh Prince.
Man, that moment when he had that moment talking about why my dad don't want me.
Classic.
Oh man, I almost cried on that episode. Man,
I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah, that was a powerful moment, man. On that Fresh Prince, then Uncle Phil, man, I got you type. Yeah, I'm like. Yes, that's dope that y'all connect the dots.
Pursuit
like
of happiness, like we got so much stuff that's just out there that just really it encapsulates moments that make it fun to learn, makes it a teachable moment, because we're visual learners. I think our culture is very, very visual. So if you put a visual behind what it is you're pushing for your brand, it makes the message pop out more. So like I like to, find those movie clips or those TV show clips that really encapsulate what the design is trying to bring out. So I think that's part of it.
Yeah, that's dope that y'all do that. Like, what do you want people to understand? Number one, it's a two-part question. What do you think people should understand, specifically the black community? What do you want people to understand about themselves? Number one. Number two, what do you want people to understand about your brand?
That's a deep two-part question. So
take your time. We got all day.
I'm trying to think. As far as understanding who we are as a people, we definitely didn't start with slavery first and foremost. So I'm gonna put that out there. Just really finding creative ways to really open your mind up to all the things that we represent, from past, present, even moving forward in the future. Like I've said it time and time again, like our level of power and strength and influence and intellect is unmatched across the board, but we don't come together enough to where we're using it in a positive light, and it's overriding all the negative things that we see. So having a really strong, solid mindset of knowing, like, man, I come from kings and queens, and I come from royalty. Like that's just the truth of what it is. And when you instill that in your mind, you instill that in your children, you share that type of energy within your community, it uplifts the values and, you know, the way in which people move and treat each other and love each other and show respect and things like that. So in terms of us valuing ourselves, that's key. And in terms of our brand, it's definitely a mindset. It's a lifestyle. It's a way of thinking. It's a way of doing and moving things in a way that represents you at the highest level. Like, you know, when you think and act as if you are, you know, the best, you know, you strive for greatness on a whole nother level, like that level of commitment to what it is you're trying to do, whether you're trying to impact your community or, you know, be a great parent or just be a great human being. Like, you know, it's just a level of value that you just have to really pour into it. And if you see it at a higher level, you know, you're operating at a high frequency, a high energy, you know, that just pours out and influences other people. So we just have to really start at the most basic levels, you know. Check your energy, you know, make sure you're eating right and, you know, putting out good energy, and, you know, everything you do, you're doing with, you know, good intentions and good values. And, you know, if we start with those basics, you know, a lot of that would just catapult and, you know, influence in other areas. So it's not going to happen overnight. It'll take time, but, you know, I think we're making a lot of good strides. So
yeah, you know, I love to end it with something positive like that, you know. Right. Definitely. You know, whatever you need from me, I'm here for it, you know. You and your husband, I want y'all to understand that, you know. I feel like when people create platforms, there's also a level of responsibility that come with that. Mm-hmm. And it got to be balanced, you know. I do some shit for the hype. You know, I'm talking to this brand because everybody love this brand. You know, I'm curious of why do people love this brand. So I talk to those companies, but then there's also things of substance that we can provide. Mm-hmm. And I think anybody that's one-sided with their perspective or one-sided with their agenda is doing a disservice to themselves and their community, wherever their community is from. Right. Doesn't matter, like if you could be Russian or white, whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like there's something that you can do to uplift your community. You can be Hispanic, and I feel like there's something you can do to help that situation, you know. But, you know, with me being black from the south side of Chicago, I feel like my level of balance is bringing forth conversations like this. Less about the brand, even though we want y'all to spend money. Don't get it messed up. Log on to the website, follow their Instagram page, and spend some money. You know, that's the best way to, you know, champion causes like this and get behind things like this. And you know, everybody not gonna be out here on the ground making things happen, but there's different level of making your contributions, whether it's buying this shirt, viewing this content from Flight School TV, or you putting out the shirt and me putting out this video, you know, playing our part in spreading awareness about what's going on, who we are, and, you know what I'm saying, lifting these voices. So I feel like everybody should feel some level of responsibility if they got any type of platform to stand on. Mm-hmm. And even if you don't, you can still play your role, you know what I'm saying, in your own household. Yeah, that's true. What's next for Indigenouz Royalty? Like, what do you want to see this brand go? Do you see, like, sneakers, jogging suits? Do you want to be in stores? Do you only, like, what's next? What do you want to see this brand go?
Man, that's coincidental you asked me. I was just having this conversation with my husband last night. Just, I definitely would like to be in a store in 2020. Definitely expanding the merchandise that we have, like, you know, of course, the jumpsuits and, you know, pins and more hats, and actually have like some hoodie dresses that I'm gonna work on as well, kids clothing, maybe some athletic wear. Just, man, the possibilities are endless, because, you know, the message that we represent, it can, you know, reach in various areas. Like, my husband coaches basketball as well. So just that realm of influencing, those young guys and things like that. Just having that mindset, that'll influence them, as young men, as basketball players, as students. So I think that's pretty awesome. So we were talking about that piece as well.
That's great. I look forward to, continuing following y'all. I'm going to stay in tune. And anything y'all need from me, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm saying that on camera intentionally. So,
I heard him.
Yeah. So if I say something here, I got to be held accountable because it's that actually documented that I said it. So I say stuff like that on camera on purpose. Anything y'all need me for, just reach out. I'm here for it. If I got time, or if I don't, I'm going to make time. So definitely reach out. Y'all get in tune with Indigenouz Royalty. We're going to provide their information at the bottom of the screen. And is there anything you want to say in closing to let people know where can they follow you or get in tune?
Definitely check out our website, www.indigenouz, I think it's -royalty.com. We're on Facebook, Instagram. Check us out, follow us, shop with us as well, and definitely be on the lookout for more and seeing us in 2020.
Hey, and with that being said, ain't nothing left to be said. Flight School TV, Indigenouz Royalty, we out.